Hello there Internet, N076 here, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to make a low poly gun, or like weapon basically in Blender, because you can apply this on both like let's say like a sword, or a knife, or just like a pistol or a rifle, or anything, any kind of weapon really. So what we're going to do is first have Blender 2.8 downloaded. That's the version we're going to be using today, and I'll link the downloads in the description. First, just delete all this, and then next you're gonna wanna press 7 on your numpad to set like the camera view to like facing down like this right here. Okay, so like it's like a flat top surface down view. Next is what you're gonna do is go to like any web browser of choice, and let's say look up a gun. So let's say I want to make you could do like a pistol or a rifle. I'm gonna be doing a rifle, so I'm gonna grab a M, like use like an M1 Grand, and I'm gonna put side view in the search query. I don't know how to say it correctly, and you're gonna look that up because you want a side view of your image. So let's see. You also want to make sure your image is like a high quality image, not like how that image I was just looking at right there. That was like pretty low quality. I'm gonna just use this one. Actually, here's a better one. So you're gonna save the image as like a image file. So I'm just call it M1 Grand. Save it. Let's see, show in folder. Let me just see where this is. Okay, it's over there. So next is we're gonna press 7 again on our keyboard. We're gonna do Shift A to add something in. So like I'm gonna do an image reference, and I'm gonna go to my folder where I saved that image. So I'm gonna scroll down. Here it is. Sorry. Load reference image. And now you can scale it however big you want it. That's probably good for right now. Then we're gonna go to the image, the data properties for the image tab, and we're going to use alpha channel, set transparency to 0.5. I personally use 0.5 just so you could see through a little bit. Also, by the way, to like move the camera or pivot it around like this, you could do middle mouse wheel or Shift F, middle mouse wheel, move around. So anyways, go back to 7, and now we're going to move our 3D cursor right here by clicking Shift, right click. So moving it around. And we're gonna start on like a portion. Now I'm gonna start with the stock back here. Frick. And I'm gonna, oh my god. I'm gonna do Shift A, mesh, and a plane. I personally use planes. You can use cues, but I think planes is gonna be better for this. Now, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate it so it's line length axis facing this way. So like we're gonna do R, Y to lock it to the Y axis to rotate it, and we're going to rotate it accordingly. So I'm going to go back here to the top down view and rotate it where it's perfectly lined up and centered onto the Y axis, because I want it to be just precise. I don't want it like rotated or tilted a bit. That should be this always takes like a little bit of trick handling. Now you can do it like that, or I could just go here to rotate it like that, set rotation at 90 degrees or negative 90. It really doesn't matter as long as it's at a 90 degree angle. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to scale this down, and we're going to want to scale it on the Z axis. So S, Z to lock it, scaling to the Z axis, and we're going to scale it down. That's probably about good, yeah. Next, we're going to go into edit mode by pressing tab, or you can just click up here, switch between it. And we're going to scale it down even more just by pressing S and everything. And then we're going to move it up a little bit, kind of move it around. So now, there we go. I want it in the back right there because we're going to start our shape right here. Now we're going to press E to extrude on this face, and I'm going to drag it along this side. Now I'm going to put X-ray on so I can see it better, I don't really like using wireframe. I don't know why I like the X-ray better, but you could use wireframe if you wanted to. But yeah, now I'm gonna press. By the way, to get a box select like this, you're gonna press B. So B, to make sure I select both points on the side, because if I only select the top one right here, I'm not gonna get that bottom point. God, my voice is like cracking so bad. So now we're gonna move this part back right here, and we're gonna move it down. I want it to fit the stock of the gun and everything. Next, what we're gonna do is we're just trying to get a basic outline of what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back later and add different points along these so it looks better and is more like fit to the actual shape and not just like a square box like that. Now I'm gonna do E extrude again, drag it across like this. That's about good. How I want it right there. Kind of drag that point down, using like the circle right here to kind of free move it in the direction I want. Extrude it again, move it up. Pretty simple. Now, let's say you wanted to scale this part right here. You're gonna make sure like you scale on the correct axis. I'm pretty sure it's X-axis for this, I believe. No, wait. S, Y, yeah, Y-axis. There we go. So I scale it on the Y-axis, because if you scale it wrong, it could if you just do like normal scale, it'll scale on all axes. So like it could mess up your proportions or like the ratios of your shape. I'm just gonna move these parts along, starting to get some bit detail there. Now, see how there's a corner right here. I would move this right here. That's kind of look ugly. So later we're gonna come back and add something. That's pretty good for this backstock right here. Now I'm gonna go along and finish the rest of this wooden barrel, because this mesh right here, I'm just gonna name it the wooden barrel. So I'm gonna speed this part up. So yeah. Okay, so I kind of finished the wooden barrel right here. This is going to be, I'm going to separate this part because this is where the receiver is. And there's a bit of some details right here and another part of the wooden barrel. So this is just going to be a different, separate mesh. Down where you can go and actually make this part look nice. So I'm going to select this area right here. And I'm going to do Control R to add a loop cut into this. Now, if I use my scroll wheel on my mouse, middle button, middle wheel, I can select how many loop cuts I want. I'm only going to want 2 for right now. Then I can position it how I want. I can always move it, but it's later. But that's fine for right now. Now, this like little tedious part is kind of going in, scaling it to like how you really want it to be, and everything. And then another tip I'm going to say too in this video is that you're going to want to keep it quad modeled like this. If you're going to use like try models, so like for example, I do that, and that's a try and everything. Those are okay, but it's like the least amount of like vertices or like polygons that there is. But it's better to do quads just because it's more flexible to work with. Like it's more easier. Like this configures better like for like moving around than like. And if you want to avoid n-gons at all costs, so like you don't want to have like 5 vertices in one with connected to one face, because that's just gonna screw up scaling and other things like that later. So make sure I have that selected and that's selected. Control R into the middle right here, and about right there should be fine. Scale that up a little bit, move this a little bit. You know, just getting those finer details in. Now the stock right here, the back stock, usually the back portion of the stock of a gun is a bit like wider than like the other parts. So I'm gonna select this portion of actually up to there should be good, yeah. And I'm gonna scale it up a little bit by pressing Z to just give it a bit extra thickness. And there we go. Now there's also like the little metal part of the stock right here. So let's get that configured and to go. So I'm just gonna move this part back a little bit, have a little outline right there, that should be fine. Select that part, And I'm gonna do separate this so it's in a different mesh. This is just what I do personally. You can do it a different way if you want. I usually separate it because one, I'm gonna add a bevel right here, and then I don't want it to mess up with the other part of the mesh. And two, it's gonna be colored differently. Now you could keep it all together and use a color map, but I hate using color maps, and I just color it individually. Plus, you can get more options for coloring things later. So now we're gonna want to just start naming our things. So like M1 grand. So like this part right here is just gonna be called like the stock detail. Let's call it that. Frick. And then the rest tab into object mode. Just gonna call that the wooden frame. There we go. Now let's move up to here, and we're gonna add some. We're gonna work on this portion of the gun right here. Actually, wait, before we do that, really quick. There's this part that's actually been bugging me. So let's add another loop cut. Loop cuts is very useful for like modeling like low poly, because it just adds like that kind of low poly feel, you know. And you get like that precise stuff like that. This is in any way not like a high render poly like of a gun. I'm not doing like 5 million polygons. This is just like a simple low poly model. Just kind of adding some more loop cuts here and there to really give it that like scale, if you know what I mean. Add a little bit of portion right there. Kind of move that across a little bit. That should be good. There we go. That looks nice. Now that's like a good portion of our stock complete. Let's see how this looks. That looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks good. So now let me go. Hang on. Let's see. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Now we're gonna work on this part of the gun right here, the little barrel. Now we're gonna add a circle mesh. We're just gonna rotate it again onto the axis. I'm gonna do 90 degrees just get that done quicker. Scale it down using hotkeys and Blender is really good for this. Like, you don't want to memorize like the scaling and how scale and like for scaling and rotating or moving. You know, you can press Y, Z, or X on like your keyboard to like lock it to like a certain axis. Go back into edit mode really quick here and just kind of scoot that back right there. Press E to extrude, drag it along like that. Now there's a little bit of a portion of a gun barrel right here. I'm just gonna ignore that for right now. E, scale this down a little bit. E, and then yeah, there you go. That's part of the little barrel done right there. Now, let's say you want to add some. You want to use like solidify this part. There's like a little thin barrier right here. You know, see. You could use a modifier, but that affects the whole mesh. And let's say you have this barrel mesh connected to the whole thing. What I would usually do is instead just E to extrude that. E to extrude, and then S to scale that extrusion down. So you could kind of fake that like it's solidified in there. I mean, you could go back and add like more solidify, or like scale it down, extrude a face, scale it down so like it's connected to this to give it a bit more depth. But I think this is fine for the most part. And yeah. Now, actually, before we finish the receiver, noticing like when I just notice problems, I usually just fix it right as I see it. Now this right here, it looks extremely ugly and disgusting, and it makes me want to throw up. So I'm going to select all this really quick right here. Let's get that selected. And yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to scale that a little bit right there. And now I'm going to select these corners of this right here. And we're going to do Control. And I can do Control Shift B or Control V. Control B is a bevel. So I can bevel it. And if I use my middle mouse button, or I can this is curving it. I forget how it works sometimes. But it curves it to like how you want it, like that. You know what I mean? It works differently depending on what you have selected. But if I do Control Shift B, actually the same thing. Never mind. I think if I select all the points, it'll do the bevel. It should. Yeah, bevel, because it bevels on like a face. There we go. Yeah, it's a bevel. So that's like a bevel I want right there. It just gives a bit more of a refined shape and like makes it look better. Like smooths it out. Like okay, like right here, these could use curves because it just looks so like ugly. It just makes me want to throw up. I'm being so like harsh. By using your middle mouse wheel though, you add more vertices to give it more of a curve. So like the more vertices equals more curves, but that means a bigger file. Less vertices equal less curve and less file size. I think that should be good. And there you go. We should have pretty much everything named now. And yeah. So now, let's say you want to color this, right? And you want to have like your model all colored and everything. Now we're going to go to shading, the shading tab, viewport shading. Let me just, now first you want to click world. I usually always go for like a gradient. Or you could choose a color, like a solid color, like, I don't know, like, I don't really know. I'm just gonna, but I'm just, what I do is usually just do color ramp, which is basically like a gradient. Set the gradient to like a different color, so like turn up this brightness, have a light blue, have another kind of blue right there, and then put the color into the color factor right there. Now we're gonna select our part. We're gonna go to object to like get a new material for that. Now we're gonna change our base color to let's say like a brown. So kind of just screw with like our color sliders a bit here. You know, just kind of play around with it. And there we go. It's like a brown. Turn up the roughness actually a little bit. Now you can't really tell if I go into here. Actually, it'll probably look better. Yeah, I'll go there. And then same. Just I can actually wait. Shoot, that's not gonna do it best how I want it to. Let me just see my let me set this to RGB really quick. 0.39 and 1. Okay. So I'm set this to 0.39. Oh wait, shoot, no, 0.039. And there we go. It should be like about the same color as that. It's just probably like the shading makes it look a bit different. Now, you can choose like if you want HSV or hex code. I always either choose RGB because that's like the simplest for me. Now I'm just gonna color just like a grayish right there. That looks good. And then add a bit of metallic factor to it. Turn up the rough, actually lower the roughness a little bit, and then do the same for these things. Okay, actually, that you can just do metallic roughness. You know, you can always change these. You can change it accordingly how you want. I'm just doing it like this. Set that to let's set that to black, and set that one to black. And then make sure this metallic pretty up. And then let's see, turn on that metallic actually. Lower the roughness a little bit. You know, just playing around with these features kind of helps you like understand how it works and everything. Turn metallic, roughness. Like the roughness is basically how like rough it will look. You know, metallic same thing. Basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. Nothing too difficult to understand. Turn up that. Give it a bit of a tap. Lower the roughness. And we should be pretty much done here for the most part. I'm just finishing up these coloring. And the roughness. Let's get that circle selected. There we go. Or a bolt for reloading. And turn up the metallic this a little bit, turn the roughness. You know, just go through and do all that. I'll probably just fast forward this part most likely. Now, there we go. We have our finished model. Looks pretty decent. Looks pretty nice and everything. We got our little M1 Grand here. Now, shading, I don't know why it looks that bad. Probably just probably because I don't have a light source, so if I add a light source really quick, it should just look better. And that looks a little bit better now. There we go. Now if like let's say you want to render this and everything, so like you could have like a nice little look. I always turn up my strength. You always want to have like a light in here, so you can like light your object and everything that you have. So there we go. That looks like a good. That looks good right there to render. Now we're gonna add a camera really quick. Let's do Shift A. Remember, camera. We're gonna set our camera to F. Yeah, there. And now we're gonna do this. Kind of get like a good angle or pose we want for our weapon. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Control Alt, and then make sure you have numlock on the numpad, numpad 0 specifically. Do Control Alt 0, and it'll set the camera's position to what your view's position is. Next, you're just gonna go to render image, and you should have your gun fully rendered. There's a tutorial on 3D modeling, whatnot. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah.